I never thought I'd be sitting here writing this out, but I guess I'm just trying to make some sense of what's happened. My name's David, and I was with my wife Lisa for almost 10 years. We had our usual ups and downs like any couple, but overall I thought things were pretty good. She's a bit of a bitch sometimes, very sharp-tongued, always sarcastic, and she liked to keep herself busy with work, her friends, and of course, her gym routine. She's the kind of girl who can be charming when she wants to be, but she's also got a mean streak a mile long when she's annoyed. Still, I never suspected her of cheating. We had a pretty normal life. No huge fights, no major secrets, at least I thought so. I was working a lot, trying to climb the ladder in my career, and Lisa was busy with her job as a PR exec. We'd often spend weekends just relaxing, maybe going out for dinner or binge-watching some crappy TV show. Nothing unusual, right? That is, until I started noticing small things. Little things at first. Her phone always locked, her messages more secretive, and her mood swings becoming more intense. I figured she was just stressed or dealing with some work drama. But then I noticed she'd go for solo massages at the spa much more often, claiming it was her way to unwind. She'd come back from those sessions looking relaxed, sometimes oddly so, like she'd been somewhere more than just a massage. I didn't think much of it at first, honestly. I trusted her, or at least I convinced myself I did. But one day, I decided to check the security footage from our home's smart camera system, just to see if she'd forgotten to turn it off while she was out. It was a random impulse, honestly. I wasn't planning to snoop, but curiosity got the better of me. When I pulled up the recordings from a week ago, I saw something that made my stomach drop. She left the house at around 2 p.m. as usual, but then I saw her entering the spa. The footage got clearer as she moved through the corridor, her face, her body language. Nothing seemed suspicious at first, until the camera panned to the treatment room. That's when I saw him, Tom, the spa's massage therapist. I'd heard of him. A guy in his early 40s, supposedly good at his job. But what struck me like a punch in the gut was what I saw next. Lisa and Tom in the treatment room, kissing deep and passionate. It wasn't a quick peck either. They were all over each other, hands exploring, lips locked. My heart stopped. I rewound and played it again. There they were, full-on making out while the door was ajar. The worst part, the footage showed her getting on the massage table, her clothes pulled aside, and Tom going down on her. I don't need to describe all the details, but trust me, I saw enough to know this wasn't just some innocent flirtation. It was real, it was physical, and it was happening during what she called her solo sessions. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my partner, was cheating on me with the guy who was supposed to be helping her relax. It was like the ground vanished beneath me. I sat there frozen, staring at the screen. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced. How long has this been going on? How many times? Was I just blind, or had I been deliberately ignored? I kept replaying the footage, trying to find any sign I'd missed. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just an impulsive thing. This was something serious. Something she'd been hiding from me. I felt a cold wave of shock, then anger boiling inside. I knew I had to confront her. I didn't want to jump to conclusions without talking, but everything inside me was telling me to act now. That night, I waited for her to come home. I wasn't sure what I was going to say, but it was clear my world was about to change forever. The betrayal was so blatant, so undeniable that I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. How could she lie so effortlessly? How long had she been sneaking around? I kept telling myself it was just some fling, but the way she looked in those videos, I could see the desperation, the passion, the total disregard for everything we had built. I felt an emptiness I'd never known before. I was about to open a door I could never close again. When she finally came home that evening, I could barely look at her. Lisa walked in, flipping her hair and pretending everything was perfectly normal, like she hadn't just been caught on camera screwing around with her massage therapist. She was wearing that same bitchy smile she always had when she was trying to dismiss something she didn't want to deal with. I kept my silence for a while, just watching her, trying to process what I now knew. I finally couldn't hold it in anymore. My voice was hoarse but firm. Lisa, I saw the footage. You and Tom in the treatment room. Kissing, touching, doing more than just massages. She froze for a second, then laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "Oh, come on, Dave, that's bullshit, you're just jealous, it means nothing." Her words hit me like a slap. Jealous of her cheating on me with some guy who's supposed to be giving her massages. That's what she chose to say. I couldn't believe her. How brazen she was being, lying straight to my face like she didn't see how much her betrayal gutted me. I told her I had the footage and she blinked, suddenly looking a little less confident. She tried to brush it off, saying, "You're overreacting, Dave, it's just a stupid fling." It does mean anything. Tom's just a guy who gives massages and I was stressed, okay? I needed to relax. But I wasn't buying it, not anymore. I knew what I saw. She kept arguing, saying I was crazy and reading too much into a damn massage, but her voice was shaky, almost desperate. She threw in some classic lines, "You're paranoid. You don't trust me. It's just sex. It's not a big deal." But I knew better. I knew this wasn't just about sex. It was about her lying to my face, sneaking around behind my back and playing me for a fool. The betrayal cut deep and I felt a wave of rage building inside. I wanted to rip her apart, but I also knew I needed to stay calm. I told her I needed time to think and I left the room. I spent the night staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I saw, her sneaky glances at her phone, the way she'd brush off my questions, her quick lies. It was like a switch flipped inside me and I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. Not really. And that's when the plan started forming. Revenge. Not some childish revenge, but something calculated, something that would hit her where it hurt. I wanted her to feel what I felt, that sense of betrayal, of being lied to, of losing control. The next day I started digging into his background. I found out Tom had a wife of his own, another thing that made my blood boil. Married, apparently with kids. I also learned that Tom's massages weren't just about relaxation. He'd been caught with other clients before, and the spa kept hush-hush about it. That told me Lisa wasn't the first woman he charmed into bed. That made me even angrier. I wasn't going to just confront her and then walk away. No, I wanted to make her understand what she was doing, what she had done to us. I decided to take my time, gather evidence, and plan my next move. I knew I had to do something big, something that would make her regret ever crossing that line. I didn't want a messy divorce, not yet. I wanted her to see what she'd lost, what she'd thrown away for a moment of stupid pleasure. I wanted her to feel insecure, guilty, and maybe, just maybe, realize how much she'd screwed up. That's when I decided I'd get the truth out in the open, no matter what it took. But for now, I kept my cool. I acted like everything was normal, even though inside I was boiling over. I kept telling myself I'd find a way to turn this around, to make her see she couldn't cheat and lie and expect me to just roll over. That betrayal wasn't going to just fade away. I was planning my move, and I knew it was only a matter of time before I confronted her again, this time with everything laid bare. Over the next few days, I stayed quiet, letting everything simmer under the surface. I couldn't sleep well, kept waking up with that sick feeling in my stomach. The image of Lisa with Tom burned into my mind. Every time I thought about it, I got angrier, more betrayed. I started paying closer attention to her, noticing subtle signs that she was trying to cover her tracks, like deleting messages or rushing to hide her phone when I walked into the room. She became more defensive, more bitchy, snapping at me over the tiniest things. Clearly, she knew I was onto something, even if she kept denying it. One morning she left her phone on the kitchen counter and I couldn't resist. I picked it up, hesitating for a second, then unlocked it. I didn't expect much, just wanted to see if she slipped up. That's when I found it, a string of messages with Tom, full of flirty emojis, innuendos, and plans to meet after hours. Nothing explicit, but enough to tell me she wasn't just relaxing during those massages. She was hiding something and she was trying to keep it secret. My chest tightened. I knew then that I had to go beyond just surveillance. If I wanted her to really understand what she'd done, I needed proof she couldn't deny. I started digging through her social media accounts, her emails, even her bank statements, whatever I could find that linked her to Tom or that night at the spa. It wasn't long before I found a receipt for a private massage session booked under her name, paid in cash. That was the final nail. She'd been sneaking around, lying right to my face, and I had the proof now. I felt sick, furious, and disgusted all at once. How could She'd be so careless, so callous. I'd never thought she was capable of this kind of betrayal, but there it was, clear as day. I knew I couldn't confront her without a plan. I didn't want her to spin some bullshit story, so I decided I'd record our next conversation. I wanted her to slip up, to admit everything herself. I set up my phone in the living room, concealed behind a book, and waited. When she got home that evening, the atmosphere was thick with tension. She was her usual bitchy self, throwing sarcastic comments and acting like she had everything under control. I kept quiet, letting her talk, playing the innocent husband she thought she could manipulate. Then I asked her outright, "Lisa, do you still see Tom? Are you sleeping with him?" Her eyes flashed with anger, but she denied it, scoffing at the idea. I pressed her further. "I saw your messages. I saw the receipt for your private session. Don't lie to me anymore." Her face twisted into a snarl. "You're crazy, Dave. You're reading too much into this. Tom's just a friend. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." She lied with such ease it made me sick, but I had her on tape, every word, every lie. I told her I wasn't going to play her game anymore. Then I played the recording for her. Her face went pale as she listened to herself denying everything, her own voice admitting to the affair. The look in her eyes was like I'd just shot her. She looked stunned, helpless, caught in her own web of lies. That moment, I felt a mix of relief and pure rage. She was finally exposed. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, was a cheater. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. That's when the anger boiled over. I told her she had to leave. I told her I wanted a divorce. She screamed, called me crazy, said I was overreacting, but I didn't care. I'd already made up my mind. I had enough proof, enough dirt, enough betrayal. That night she packed her bags and left. I stayed behind, staring at the empty house, feeling hollow. I kept replaying her lies, her sneers, her betrayal. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut every single day I'd been with her. And now I was finally free from the lies, but the pain was real. I was angry, yes, but underneath it all, I was also heartbroken. Because I had loved her stupidly, I guess. But now that love was shattered. I kept telling myself I'd be okay, I'd move on, but for now I just felt numb. That's where I was, standing in the wreckage of what I thought was a marriage, trying to figure out how the hell I got here. The days that followed were a blur. I threw myself into work, trying to drown out the constant replay of her lies and the images burned into my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Tom, her face twisted in pleasure, completely ignoring the vows we made. It was like I'd been punched repeatedly, left bleeding in a dark alley with no way out. I couldn't believe I'd trusted her for so long, bought her bullshit about how stressed she was, how she needed me time to unwind. She'd been sneaking around, lying through her teeth, and I was just a fool for not seeing it. I started to get angry, not just at her, but at myself. How did I not see the signs? How did I let her get away with this? I kept thinking about all the times she dismissed my concerns, told me I was paranoid, called me insecure. Well, I wasn't paranoid. I was right all along. She'd been cheating and she'd been lying to my face for months. Every little thing she did, from hiding her phone to brushing past me when she was on those solo massage days, was a lie. Now I was left with nothing but a trail of breadcrumbs that led straight to her betrayal. One thing that kept bothering me was how she kept trying to twist the story. Every time I confronted her, Lisa would either deny everything or turn it around. "It's just sex," she'd say, like that made it okay. Or she'd call me insecure, accuse me of being jealous because I cared. But I knew better. I knew this was about her absolute disregard for our vows for me. She'd been selfish, craving attention from this Tom guy, and probably enjoying the thrill of sneaking around. I'd never felt so humiliated yet so determined. I wanted her to realize what she'd lost, what she'd thrown away for a quick fuck. I started planning my next steps. I wasn't rushing to file for divorce yet. I wanted her to see I wasn't some doormat. I wanted her to understand that betraying me wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice. I gathered all the evidence I had, screenshots, recordings, her bank receipts, and kept it safe. I even considered talking to a lawyer, but I wasn't ready to make that move just yet. I wanted her to feel the pressure, to see that I was serious. Meanwhile, she kept calling and texting, trying to guilt-trip me or manipulate me back into her web. She'd cry, scream, call me names, anything to get me to cave. I ignored most of it. Honestly, I was too consumed with my own feelings, hurt, anger, betrayal, plus the desire for some kind of justice. I kept telling myself I deserved better than this, that I'd be better off without her. Still, part of me wondered if I could ever truly move past this, if I'd ever trust again. The thought of being alone after a decade of marriage was terrifying. Then, one afternoon, I decided to confront her one last time. I wanted her to see I wasn't messing around. I called her up, told her I'd meet her at her place. When she arrived, she looked defiant, like she thought she could still play her games. But I was done pretending. I laid everything out, showed her the evidence, played the recordings, explained how I knew about her secret meetings, her lies, her betrayal. Her face went white as she listened, her bitchy attitude melting into shock and then anger. She yelled at me, said I was crazy, that I was inventing things. She tried to deny everything once again, but I didn't let her. I told her I'd had enough of her lies, that I wanted her to be honest for once. That's when she snapped. Her voice rose, full of venom. She accused me of trying to ruin her, of being insecure, and then she threw in the classic line, "You're just jealous because I'm better in bed than you ever were." That was the last straw. It made me realize I'd been a fool, but it also made me see that I needed to cut her loose for good. So I told her she had to leave. No more games, no more excuses. I couldn't keep pretending any longer. She stormed out, calling me every name in the book, but I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with emptiness. I finally stood up for myself, took back some control. That day I realized I'd been living in a lie for too long, and there was no fixing this. Not with her. Not anymore. The betrayal had cut too deep. I knew I'd be okay, eventually. But right now I just felt drained, like I'd been running a marathon. It's one hell of a lesson in trust, and honestly I don't know if I'll ever fully recover from it. After she left that day, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. The house seemed emptier than ever, even with her gone. The silence was deafening. No more sarcastic comments, no more fights, no more her sneering at my concerns. Just an echo of what used to be. I kept going over everything in my mind, trying to understand how I missed all the signs, how I let her manipulate me for so long. It was like waking up from a nightmare, but the scars were real, and I knew they'd stay with me. I also noticed that the betrayal wasn't just about what she did with Tom. It was about the way she lied, the way she dismissed my feelings, the way she played me like a fool. It made me question everything. Our years together, the promises we made, the trust that was supposed to be unbreakable. I felt stupid for ever trusting her, and yet part of me still mourned what we had. That's the thing about betrayal, it leaves you in a weird place, caught between anger and sadness, wanting justice but also feeling helpless. I started to lean on my friends for support. I told a few close ones what had happened, people I trusted, people who knew Lisa well enough to have seen her bitchy side. Surprisingly, a lot of them knew something was off, but nobody expected her to cheat. I guess sometimes we're blind in love or just want to believe the best. I didn't want to be that guy who's constantly crying over a cheating wife, but I couldn't help feeling broken, like my heart had been shattered into tiny pieces. At the same time, I realized I had to protect myself emotionally. I blocked her number, her social media, everything that could connect me to her. I knew she'd try to reach out, maybe guilt-trip me into taking her back, or worse, try to spin some story to make herself look like the victim. But I was done with that. I needed space to breathe, to heal, to figure out what I really wanted. I also started seeing a counselor just to process everything. It was a slow process, but I needed to confront my feelings, anger, betrayal, heartbreak, and find a way to move past them. One day I caught myself looking at old photos of us, happy moments I'd forgotten existed. It hurt so much I had to put them away. That's when I realized what she'd taken from me, not just the marriage, but the trust, the sense of security, the future I'd envisioned. I'd been living in a kind of denial, telling myself everything was fixable, but deep down, I knew some things couldn't be undone. I had to accept that and start over, even if it meant rebuilding from the ground up. I also started to think about what I would do next. Divorcing her was inevitable, but I wanted to do it on my terms. I didn't want her to spin some sob story and paint herself as the victim. I wanted to make sure I had everything documented, every piece of evidence, every conversation, just in case she tried to deny her actions later. I was determined not to be taken for a fool again. I also decided I wasn't going to rush into a new relationship, not until I fully healed. Right now, I just needed to focus on myself. That realization brought some peace, strange as it sounds. For so long, I'd been trying to hold everything together to keep the marriage alive, even when I knew something was off. Now, I was finally free to start my own path. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. I knew I'd stumble, I'd hurt, but I also knew I'd survive. Betrayal like this leaves marks, but it also teaches you who you really are. And for the first time in a while, I felt like I was reclaiming myself. That's the brutal part of betrayal. It shatters your world, but it also forces you to rebuild, stronger and wiser than before. The hardest part of this whole ordeal has been coming to terms with what Lisa did. I won't lie, there are days when I still wake up angry, days when I wonder if I'll ever fully trust again. But I've learned something valuable. Sometimes, the only way forward is to face the pain head-on and accept that some things can't be undone. I've come to understand that betrayal cuts deep, but it also reveals the strength you never knew you had. I've had to forgive myself for missing the signs, for being naive, and most of all, for loving someone who turned out to be a stranger. Looking back, I realize I was blind for a long time. Blind to her bitchy manipulations, blind to her lies, blind to the way she played with my feelings. But now I see clearly. I see how dangerous it is to ignore your instincts, how crucial it is to trust yourself, even when everyone else is telling you to keep quiet. I've learned that sometimes you need to cut out the toxic people from your life, even if they're the person you once loved. It's a brutal lesson, but an honest one. I don't hold any hatred toward Tom. He was just another victim of her games, and honestly, I pity him now. She's the real villain here, her lies, her manipulation, her selfishness. I hope someday she realizes what she's lost, but frankly, I don't care anymore. I've moved on. I've started focusing on my own happiness, on rebuilding what was broken, on finding someone who truly values me. To anyone out there going through something similar, here's my advice. Trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how small or insignificant they seem. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And if you catch them in a lie, don't brush it aside or make excuses. Confront them, and don't be afraid to walk away if that's what's necessary. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect. Anything less is not worth your time or your heart. This experience has been a brutal wake-up call, but it's also made me stronger. I'm not broken, I'm just reshaped. I know now that betrayal is the end of the world. It's a harsh lesson that life will test you, but you can come out the other side even better than before. I'm learning to trust myself again, to rebuild my confidence, and to remember that I am worthy of love and respect. So here I am, sharing this story because maybe someone else needs to hear it. Maybe someone else is stuck in denial or feeling helpless. Trust me, you're not alone. And no matter how dark it gets, there's always a way out. Sometimes you just have to find it yourself. I've finally done that, and it feels damn good. Moving on isn't easy, but it's necessary. I'll keep walking forward, carrying this lesson with me, stronger than I ever was. And that's enough.